Death is not the worst evil, but rather when we wish to die and cannot. Spot, please. 496 to 406 BC. It may have been hard to infer from that, but my topic of interest today is euthanasia. Now, it's really hard for me to say that I'm extremely knowledgeable on this topic, so I won't say that, but I can say this though. Of all the things that I've learned in this class, one of the very few, actually many things that stand out, is the ethical guidelines that a speaker should follow when giving a speech. A number of these are stated in the book, as you may have seen. One is to make sure your goals are ethically sound. The other one is to be honest with what you say. Another one is to not use abusive language. Another one would be to put ethical principles into practice, and most importantly, to be fully prepared for your speech. I am fully prepared, I can't say that. Now, what I'm going to try to do today is try to persuade you to agree that euthanasia is a very good alternative in certain situations so as to relieve pain. First, we'll begin by defining euthanasia, and then we'll see why euthanasia is a good alternative, as I said before, and then we'll see why euthanasia should be legalized, and finally, I don't know why I keep saying I look at the arguments that are made who are opposed to euthanasia. Now, I believe that it would be very apt to start by defining euthanasia. Now, in the past, it's been seen in a very negative light, so let's start with the original term. The term euthanasia comes from the Greek terms for good and death. It's a very broad term for mercy killing. Basically, it means to take a life of a very hopelessly ill or injured individual in order to relieve him or in order to end his suffering. Not his life, his suffering. Make note of that. Now, the first point that I'd like to discuss is that people are suffering and they don't need to be. In his book, A Natural Right to Die, Raymond Whiting wrote, "Death was once a part of life. It was a part of life that was an accepted condition of human of our being. It was a communal occasion that brought friends and family together in order to bring comfort and dignity to the dying and the bereaved. It was a social process rather than a medical event." That's not the same anymore. I'd like to look at a case together. In 1975, a 21-year-old Karen Ann Quinlan was admitted to a hospital in a coma and was later declared by doctors to be in a very vegetative, persistent vegetative state. That means that the person who was in a coma, the person who was unconscious, even progressed to a state of very huge wakefulness and undetectable awareness. And after 5 months on the ventilator, her parents requested the ventilator be removed and that Mrs. Quinlan be allowed to die. That request was denied by a doctor, but later that was reversed. But just bear with me and listen to this article I found, actually part of an article that I found in Associated Contact. "The race is over. The pain excruciating. No one's sure what to do. However, the doctor announces that there is no hope for the animal. The animal is lame and can never run another race. And now it's time to be humane and put the horse down." Now this is where the debate comes into play. Now it's considered humane to euthanize an animal that's in pain, but it's illegal to euthanize a human being that's in pain, even when the prognosis is death. I really don't know much what I can say about this except, really, the hypocrisy. Now, while I was researching this subject, I came across an article in Associated Contact, which had the title, "The Plausibility of Euthanasia for Infants in the United States." And I promise you, as soon as I read that, I thought to myself, now these are kids, we can't do that, that's ridiculous. We gotta look for a viable, a different alternative. But then I started to think about it. And in July 2005, Dutch doctors adopted guidelines to follow in cases where euthanasia would be a very valuable option in the treatment of severely disabled newborns. Now, the requirements are as follows. The first one is the diagnosis and prognosis that the baby is suffering hopelessly and unbearably with no hope for improvement. I'll say it again, suffering hopelessly, unbearably, no hope for improvement. The second requirement is that the prognosis is confirmed by an independent doctor. Seems fair. The third one is that both parents give informed consent. Very plausible. The fourth one, the details of the newborn's condition and the euthanasia procedure be given to a local district attorney. It's all very fair, very plausible, but still, there's much controversy on the topic. See, apparently, killing a child by calling it a fetus, and calling the act abortion, that's okay. But relieving a child of unnecessary pain, well, God forbid. we should be so compassionate. Now, I believe that legalizing euthanasia is a very good thing for a number of reasons, but before I get into that, I'd like for us to see this one point that people who are opposed to euthanasia make. They say, you don't solve problems by getting rid of the people to whom the problem happens. The more difficult but humane solution to human suffering is to address the problem. What is there to address? You've exhausted every viable alternative. There's nowhere to go here. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. There's no, the grass is greener on the other side, or however you want to put it. As I said before, suffering hopelessly, unbearably, no hope for improvement. Now, as I said before, legalizing euthanasia would be a good alternative for a number of reasons. For one, it would be inhuman and unfair in itself to make people suffer or go through an unbearable pain. And in case of individuals suffering from incurable disease or in conditions where effective treatment wouldn't affect their quality of life, they should be given the liberty to choose whether or not they want to induce death. There's just no way around it. It's about the patient. Some would argue that the doctor's duty is to make sure that the patient doesn't die, to prevent death. But come on, let's be real. It's the doctor's duty to do what's best for the patient. Also, another argument that could be raised is the right to privacy and the right to liberty. I mean, who's to say that a person should have a right to life but should not have a right to death? I say it should be an inalienable right, if anything. Now, before I finish up, I'd like to attack some arguments that are made by people who oppose euthanasia. The first of these arguments is that euthanasia devalues human life. That's not true. If anything, it gives it more value. We gave that horse, that animal, a lot of value that we thought we were compassionate. And we said to ourselves, no, we shouldn't let it suffer. Let it die with dignity. That's giving value. If anything, euthanasia gives life more value. The second one is euthanasia could become a means of help with payment. I don't know about you, but seriously, is there any point to actually treating a patient that has no hope of recovery? I don't see it. Third one is that physicians and medical care people should not be involved in directly causing death. But I could also argue that physicians and other medical care people should be involved in actually relieving the patient of the pain that he's suffering. And finally, there's always this argument, the slippery slope argument, which basically says that we're opening the floodgates. We let doctors do this, and then it would not only be voluntary, but voluntary death would also occur. But just to refute this, there was a press release done by the University of Utah on September 25 that says there is no evidence that legalizing doctor-assisted suicide will result in a disproportionate number of vulnerable people's lives being ended prematurely by doctors. So there you have it. Now, before I finish, I'd like us all to take a minute and try to visualize what it would be like to be one of those people, to put ourselves in their shoes. Think about it. You can't move, you can't do anything, you're an invalid. Ask yourselves, is that what counts for life these days? Is that what counts for living? I don't think so. Socrates once said, to fear death, gentlemen, is no other than to think oneself wise when one is not. To think one knows what one does not know. No one knows whether death may be the greatest of all blessings for man, yet men fear it as if they know it's the greatest